Well, I'm an old guy, and I started to experience hearing loss maybe 15, 20 years ago. And it got progressively worse, particularly on one side. And so I had expressed my concern about that to my family, and I didn't feel like I could really afford hearing aids. I'd heard they're very expensive and a lot of negative things about them. And so I just never really looked into it. 2 years ago, my children took it upon themselves to have me make an appointment for me, and they brought me in, and I met with Mike first time, and he was really good. And my children and grandchildren gave me hearing aids for Christmas. So that's really how it all happened, and it's been a good thing. Well, it's interesting. I've really enjoyed the hearing aids, and I determined from the very beginning that I was going to make full use of them. I wasn't going to just try them and then put them away and dabble with it. So I left them on, and initially it was a little disconcerting. And the thing that I noticed most was that I could hear running water, which I hadn't noticed before, and it really stood out to me. And a couple of other things in a crowded place, and sometimes at church, it was a little uncomfortable. But as time went on and the hearing aids were adjusted, which is one of the great things about them that I've really enjoyed, they were able to adjust the hearing aids for me and took care of those issues. And so the thing that I've enjoyed most about them is that I can hear people talk to me, and particularly my grandchildren. That's something that I had missed before. Was you get to the point as you get older, you don't want people to know you can't hear them. And I'm sure they get annoyed when you keep saying, what, I didn't hear you. And so you just pretend that you heard. And that was particularly difficult for me with my grandchildren. And so that's been a real blessing in my life, that I can communicate, and particularly with family members in a situation like that. Well, Mike has been great. A couple of things about him, and I would probably say this to his face too. Mike is a great listener, and I'm not sure if that's part of his training and part of the deal when you work with people who are hard of hearing, that you become a good listener. But he's a really good listener, and it was interesting that as we got to know each other the first year, every time I would come to see him, he would want to hear my stories. And so I shared a lot of stories with Mike, and I'm sure that I went over my appointment time on many occasions. But he was very kind to listen, got to know me, got to know my history, got to know my family, and so we've become very good friends. And that's a little bit unusual in a situation like this, that you become that good of friends with a service provider, if you will. And so it's been a really good experience all the way around as far as that's concerned.
Great. And have you noticed the hearing aids at all? Because sometimes people say it's similar to wearing glasses. Over time, you get accustomed to them and don't even notice them.
I don't really even think about it anymore. I'm aware when I'm not wearing them. And I guess if there's a drawback, I'm firstborn pain in the neck kind of guy. But I've avoided doctors. I don't go to the doctor, I don't go to the hospital. And when it comes to things like this, you'll notice that I use a cane. I had polio when I was a child, and I'm thinking that that had something to do with my hearing loss. One of the things that I've avoided all my life, which is common to polio survivors, is you don't want anyone to think that you're a cripple or that you have issues. And so I've avoided using canes, crutches, wheelchairs, any of that sort of thing, because I felt that I would become dependent on it. And I felt the same way about the hearing aids. I avoided it because, there'll probably come a time when I will be dependent on them and I don't feel like I can do without them. And that has happened, but I'm okay with it. So that's not a drawback anymore. And I really don't even think about them anymore. I put them in the morning and take them out at night, and other than that, it's just part of me. It's part of my makeup.